So there's some good news to be had when it comes to defending the Hail Mary. Despite the fact that the Bills haven't been very successful at defending the Hail Mary the past couple of weeks, you have to be leading in order for the other team to attempt a Hail Mary late in the game. So that's some good news. The Bills are oftentimes leading towards the end of these games, and maybe that sort of is why they've had trouble in the third quarter at times, because they come out of halftime with the lead, so teams will defend them differently, attack them differently, and maybe that plays a role into it. But the third quarter struggles were kind of a thing again this past week against the Chargers, but the Bills did move to 8-3. For the second year in a row, they're 8-3. And what's kind of funny is if they lose to the Niners this week on Monday Night Football, we'll obviously talk about the Niners coming up in just a little bit, but if they lose to them, they're 8-4. And they are technically one game behind where they were last year, which is kind of funny to think about. And I might have mentioned this last week, but it feels like this year is just going so much better than last year, even though they are really right on par. And obviously a huge factor into that is the fact that the division is open. You're not chasing this ghost that is New England. You are leading the division, and Miami is, on your coattails. So you are the front runner. You are the favorite, the Vegas favorite. Everyone now kind of expects you to win the division. So, that's fun. It's fun. It's totally different for us. Obviously, the Bills haven't won the division in like 25 years. So that would be great to do, despite the fact that it almost seems certain at this point that none of us will get to go to a Bills home playoff game, which is really unfortunate. I'll take it. I'll take it by any means necessary. Anyway, let's go back to the Charger game. The Bills win 27-17, led 24-6 at halftime. Or, no, was it 17-6 at halftime? Sorry, let me double check that. I believe it was 17-6 at halftime, and the Bills came out. It was 17-6 at halftime. The Bills came out on their first drive of the third quarter and scored a touchdown. They made it 24-6, and at that point, if you're me, if you're the Bills, fans, Bills, all alike, you're expecting to win that game. You're at home against a 3-win team, like I said, in your building, up by 18 points in the second half. That's a game you should close relatively easy. And it wasn't. It certainly wasn't easy. The Chargers did come back and make it 24-14, and then the offense just kind of sputtered a little bit, right? They did the third quarter thing. They did that thing where they don't keep their foot on the gas and let a team hang around. Here's what happened. Once again, wanted to look at it. The Chargers made it 24-14. The Bills went 4 plays and punted. The Chargers then had like a 4th and 2 deep inside Bills territory, and the Bills came up with a huge stop. So at that point, you're thinking, all right, let's go down, let's put some points up, make it a 3-score game again. What do the Bills do? No. Fumble in 2 plays. 24-14 still. 24-17 after the Chargers kick a field goal. Bills get the ball back, 2 plays, fumble again. Fortunately, they get a 3-and-out from the Chargers. 4 plays, interception. Chargers, 3 plays, interception. Bills, 6 plays, field goal that ultimately puts it away. But this was just, how maddening was that second half? Can't we just have one simple second half where the Bills it's just straight start to finish? Like, they haven't even had it against the Jets, really. I mean, week 1, that's about it. Miami came back on them. The Rams came back on them. The Raider game was a 7-point game there for a little bit. The Jets game was super frustrating. The New England game, they were about to lose. The Seattle game, I mean, you can call that garbage time towards the end, but that was a game in the second half. Arizona, obviously. And then, obviously, this past week against the Chargers. They're playing, I don't want to say to the level of their opponent, because the Bills have most of the time looked like a better team in these games. They look like a better coach team. Anthony Lynn was coming up with hilarious coaching decision after hilarious coaching decision. I mean, what is that run at the end? Like, even if I look past everything else, like the punt near the end of the half and wasting a timeout before going for it, and what is that run to Eckler? He called it a miscommunication after the fact. It's inexcusable, is what it is. But I'm glad that Anthony Lynn had a quick audition to be the Buffalo Bills head coach at the end of 2016, and I'm glad that we ended up with Sean McDermott. That's really all I can say about that. Anyway, looking back at the box score for the Bills game, Allen goes 18 of 24 for just 157, throws a touchdown and a pick. He did add a touchdown on the ground and 32 yards himself. Cole Beasley throws a touchdown, a nice trick play to Gabe Davis. I don't want to dwell on this again because I think a lot of people are making the point that John Brown makes a significant difference for the offense, and I do think that he does make a difference. Don't get me wrong, he definitely makes a difference. But I think the Bills can attack teams in a lot of different ways. Like they decided to do it running the football a little bit, and I know that they had a couple of fumbles, and that ball security is huge. Like turnovers, free possessions, eliminate free possessions for the other team. And Singletary had one, and then Allen had one himself, and that was in, I believe that was in Charger territory, I believe. But Singletary had 82 yards on the ground. Moss had 59 also, and then obviously, as I mentioned, Allen had 32. A pretty quiet day from the receivers. Gabe Davis really had the best of the bunch. A nice 44-yard rip down in kind of like a he was on You Got Mossed for it. So I'm proud of him for that. That's why I don't necessarily think that losing John Brown is just devastating. That the offense is hindered now. Allen can only throw for 157 because John Brown's on the game. I don't buy that. I think that they are still threatening. They had opportunities to go ahead on this team. They really didn't have to. They just the defense kept them in the game, and the offense. Well, the defense kept. How do I want to word this? The defense kept the Chargers at bay for the most part. I mean, Herbert was 31 of 52 for 316. He got a bunch of those yards, 55 of them on that fluky Hail Mary towards the end there. The defense did a very good job. I think, Eckler had, 129 yards on 25 touches. He had 11 catches, but they kept a lot of the plays underneath. Keenan Allen didn't kill them. He had 4 for 40. Hunter Henry had a nice day. I think the Bills were aided by a couple of drops by the Chargers wide receivers, but all in all, a very nice effort from the defense, and another give me more in the second half from the offense. We've seen games where the defense puts together a nice first half, the offense puts together a nice first half, like the Rams game, and then they just flip-flop, and I can't figure out why this is so different week to week, or even within the context of just one singular game. But hopefully I've made this point before, the Billsing, and I think a lot of Bills fans will know what I mean, having watched the past 20 or so years of this team. The Billsing. It's here they are, they're up, things are going their way, suddenly things aren't going their way. And they didn't do it at all, really, last year, in 2019, until the playoff game. When I say Billsing, and you look at that playoff game, you know what I mean. You know that that's it. And here we are again. They're not really doing it. They lost by a Hail Mary, sure. That's, maybe one instance of it. But I want it to be complete. And I do think the offense is still very good. I'm not super concerned about the loss of John Brown. I think he'll be okay and be able to come back after just a couple game absence off of IR. But my most optimistic thing heading into San Francisco is that I think the defense is starting to hit some strides. They are healthy. You might get Matt Milano back this week, and I think that the Bills need it, despite the fact that they're playing Nick Mullins. I think that the Bills should be a pretty good favorite in this game, considering they have the better quarterback. I don't think there's any debating that. Josh Allen, currently better than Nick Mullins. But the 49ers have kind of come on as of late. Their defense is getting healthy too. So they get Richard Sherman back. They obviously have nice players already in Eric Armstead, in Fred Warner. They are a little light, I guess, at corner, other than Sherman, but they do have Sherman and Verrett. After that, they're a little bit light, but I like Jimmy Ward. I like Emmanuel Mosley, even. He's a corner. He plays corner for them as well. Javon Kinlaw had a touchdown, a pick six for them last week. Kerry Hyder, who has been just this journeyman. I mean, he's only been in the league 6 years, but he's been on 3 or 4 teams, and he leads them in sacks with 7.5, despite the fact that Bosa is out. This is a pretty well-coached team. Robert Saleh is probably going to get a head coaching job next year in the NFL. There's been a lot of clamoring for that from his own players, from, in league circles, media, and the like. So I would anticipate that. They're a pretty well-coached team, offensively and defensively. I just give the Bills a slight edge in the game overall because, like I said, of the quarterback. But last week, the Rams, almost no match. I mean, I know that it came down to like a last-second field goal, and I think that's because, again, of the quarterback. But Jared Goff was terrible. Again, I've mentioned on here before, I don't understand Jared Goff. Looks like the best quarterback in the league one week, the worst the next week. Sometimes within the context of a game, from drive to drive. I don't understand, but he was bad against the Niners. And you got to give the Niners a little bit of credit for that. They were smothering him. Even though I think they only sacked him 2 times, like, he just looked completely rattled. He got hit a bunch of times. They did not look ready. And McVay's supposed to be one of the, premier offensive minds. But Kyle Shanahan has really kind of owned him, I think, up to this point. Before that, the Niners were on their bye week. They had lost 3 games leading up to their bye. But in the past 4 games, their points allowed has come down. They went from 37 against Seattle, 34 against Green Bay, a game they were really never in. Seattle, they were leading early, but they were never really in it. And then 27 to New Orleans and 20 to the Rams, and one of those touchdowns by the Rams was a defensive score, a fumble recovery. So I'm not expecting a whole lot from the Niners offense. I think that the Bills defense hitting their stride as well could be a decent advantage here. Obviously, the game is now in Arizona, which is weird. Definitely not obviously. I just mean that that's pretty common knowledge up to this point. I don't know if that will affect anything. I know that intangibles come into play in some regard, but the Niners are already there practicing. The Bills are traveling out there on Sunday. I don't think that being familiar with the state, obviously the Niners are familiar with the stadium. They play there every single year. I don't think that you'll hear something, I'm sure you'll hear something on the broadcast about familiarity of the field, or, this team was here a couple weeks ago and this team's here every year. What does this mean? I don't read too much into that. These are professional athletes, professional coaches. They're going to show up and they're going to do what they do. Now, some numbers on the Niners. The Niners are 20th in scoring on offense, 11th on defense, 14th in total yards. This is on offense. 12th passing, 16th rushing. On defense, they are 6th in total yards, 4th against the pass, and 10th against the run. We kind of did touch on their defense a little bit. I'd like to touch on their offense. Nick Mullins, 6 touchdown passes, 7 interceptions. The guy, he's capable of leading a drive. He can get you down the field, and I guess I'm kind of even using that term loosely because Deebo Samuel has been his go-to guy lately. Well, at least this past week, now that he's back. And I don't want to touch or, just speed past the fact that Brandon Ayuk will be back. The Yak Bros, as they call them. The yards after catch bros. They're very good at it. And Deebo Samuel, he's the king so far of this push thing, or at least he was last week. Just catch, push past this thing, and he just catches it and goes around. Deebo Samuel's yards, he had 1 catch, I think, that was more than 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. He had 133 receiving yards, 136 after the catch. I'm going to double check that right now. Deebo Samuel, 133 receiving yards, 136 after the catch. He was constantly catching the ball behind the line, and his average depth of target was 0.6 yards. Like I said, he had 1 play, I believe it was in the first half. Mullins hit him on like a corner route, and it was a nice play, granted. But they have nice players. They have nice players despite the fact that George Kittle isn't going to play. I think that would be a huge matchup problem for the Bills. They're fortunate that he's out. I like Samuel. I like Ayuk a lot. Mostert's been pretty good for them in the running game. They kind of rode him a little bit to the Super Bowl last year. McKinnon is a threat in the passing game. They have weapons. I even like Richie James, of all players. I like Richie James. I like Kendrick Bourne. I enjoy watching that team play when they get good quarterback play. So that's what it's going to boil down to for me, is the good quarterback play. I'm going to give the Bills, like I said, a slight edge. I'm going to predict the Bills to beat the Niners on Monday Night Football, despite the fact that they've lost their last 4 games on Monday night. I'm going to give me the Bills. I think they might struggle a little bit. On offense, at least. I think there's going to be a defensive struggle there in the middle. Give me the Bills. Give me 23-20. The Niners won 23-20 last week. They lose 23-20 this week. Guys, hit me up on Twitter. My YouTube username and Twitter handle are the same. We can talk Bills football and any other sports that you like. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your Monday night. As always, above all else, go Bills.